Captain Sarah Chen stared at the navigation screen and frowned. The numbers looked wrong. Very wrong. She had been flying spaceships for 15 years, first hauling rocks from asteroids and now exploring the outer edges of human space. She knew when something was not right. "Marcus, come look at this," she called to the ship's scientist. Dr. Marcus Webb floated over from his lab bench. Still holding a sample container, his eyes went wide when he saw the display. "That energy reading is impossible," he said. "Nothing should be that powerful out here." The ship times, Adelaide's Revenge times, was not much to look at. It was old, patched in many places, and ran on chemical fuel that most people thought was outdated. But it was reliable, and Sarah trusted it with her life. The ship carried a crew of 12, all volunteers who wanted to see what was beyond the known worlds. "Rosa, get up here," Sarah called to the engine room. Engineer Rosa Kowalski appeared a few minutes later, wiping grease from her hands. "The engines are running fine, Captain. No problems down there." "It's not the engines. Look at this." Sarah pointed at the screen. Rosa whistled. "That's a big energy signature. What do you think it is?" "Only one way to find out," Sarah said. She had always been curious about strange things in space. That was why she left asteroid mining to become an explorer. They flew toward the energy source for 3 hours. It got stronger and stronger until their instruments could barely measure it. Then, they saw it. A ring of metal hung in space, bigger than a moon. It was covered in lights and symbols that hurt to look at. Energy crackled between metal spires that stretched into the darkness. "It's beautiful," Marcus whispered. He was already taking pictures and readings. "It's also very old," Rosa added. "Those metals. I don't recognize some of them." James Okafor, the ship's diplomat, joined them on the bridge. He had been sleeping in his cabin when the ship's alarms woke him up. "What did we find?" "Something that shouldn't exist," Sarah said. The ring began to glow brighter. Energy patterns raced along its surface like lightning. The ship's computers started making warning sounds. "Captain, it's pulling us in," Rosa said, checking her instruments. "I can't stop it." "Should we be worried?" James asked. He was always calm during emergencies. That was why Earth's government sent him on exploration missions. "Probably," Sarah said. "But there's nothing we can do about it now." The ring opened like a giant eye. Inside was not darkness, but swirling colors that seemed to move in impossible ways. The ship was pulled forward faster and faster. "Everyone, hold on," Sarah called over the ship's communication system. "We're going for a ride." The ship entered the ring. Reality twisted around them. Colors became sounds. Up became down. For a moment that felt like forever. They existed in a place that was not a place. Then everything stopped. They floated in normal space again, but this was not the space they had left. Outside the ship's windows, they saw things that took their breath away. Huge structures hung in the darkness like metal mountains. Ships the size of cities moved between them. A star had been wrapped in metal rings that captured its light. Planets had been turned into perfect spheres covered in buildings that glowed like jewels. "Well," Sarah said after a long moment, "this is new." Marcus was already at his instruments, taking readings of everything he could see. "Captain, there are thousands of different life forms out there. Maybe millions. This is the greatest discovery in human history. And we found it by accident." Rosa laughed. She was never worried about anything. "Wait until I tell my mother about this." James was looking at the communication equipment. "I'm picking up signals. Lots of them. Different languages. I think. This is clearly an advanced civilization." Sarah nodded. "Probably more advanced than us. We should be careful." At that moment, their ship's proximity alarm started screaming. Through the windows, they could see ships approaching. These ships were enormous, covered in weapons that could destroy planets. They moved in perfect formation, surrounding the small human vessel. "I think they noticed us," Rosa said. A voice spoke over their communication system. The words were strange, but somehow they could understand them. "Unknown vessel. You have entered sacred space without permission. Prepare to be boarded. Do not resist, or you will be destroyed. Sarah looked at her crew. They all seemed remarkably calm for people who might be about to die. Should I answer them? James asked. Of course. We're explorers, not invaders. Sarah activated the communication system. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earthship Times Adelaide's Revenge **. We mean no harm. We got lost and ended up here by accident. There was a long pause. You claim to be from Earth? That designation is not in our records. Explain your presence immediately. James took over the communication. Honored beings, we are peaceful explorers from a small planet called Earth. We were investigating an energy signature and accidentally activated what we believe was an ancient transportation device. We have no hostile intentions and would be grateful for directions home. Another pause, longer this time. Prepare for boarding. Any aggressive action will result in immediate destruction. They seem friendly, Rosa said with a grin. Sarah could see smaller ships leaving the larger ones, heading toward them. Everyone stay calm. James, you take the lead when they board. Marcus, hide your really expensive equipment. Rosa, make sure the engines are ready in case we need to leave quickly. Where would we go? Marcus asked. We don't know how to work that ring thing. We'll figure that out later, Sarah said. Right now, let's focus on not getting killed by our new neighbors. The boarding ships attached to their hull with metal tubes. They could hear the sound of cutting equipment. I wonder what they look like, Marcus said excitedly. As long as they're reasonable people, I don't care if they have tentacles, James replied. The airlock opened. Figures in elaborate armor stepped through, carrying weapons that hummed with energy. Behind them came beings that looked like they were made of crystal and light. Welcome to the Zephyrian Galactic Empire, the lead figure said. You are now prisoners of the God Emperor. Prepare to be interrogated. Sarah looked at the impressive display of power and technology. Then she smiled. Nice to meet you too. Do you folks have a cafeteria around here? We've been traveling for hours and could really use some coffee. The crystal beings looked at each other in confusion. In 12,000 years of galactic expansion, no one had ever asked about their cafeteria during an interrogation. Admiral Zektar of the Imperial Navy had seen many species surrender, beg, fight, or try to bargain. But these humans were doing something completely different. They were acting like tourists. Did you not hear what I said? Admiral Zektar asked through his armor's translator. You are prisoners of the God Emperor. Oh, we heard you, Captain Chen replied cheerfully. That's quite an impressive title. Is the God Emperor available for photos? My crew loves meeting important people. Dr. Webb was already taking pictures of the boarding party with a small camera. Excuse me, could you turn slightly to the left? The lighting in here isn't great for photos. The Admiral's second-in-command, Commander Yithal, whispered urgently in his ear. Sir, these beings show no signs of fear or submission. Should we increase intimidation protocols? Admiral Zektar activated his armor's fear enhancement systems. The room filled with a low sound that usually made prisoners collapse in terror. The humans looked around with interest. Is that some kind of engine noise? Rosa asked. The frequency is really interesting. What kind of power source do you use for that? It is a psychological warfare device, the Admiral said slowly. Oh, that's clever, James said, pulling out a small notebook. We should write that down. Earth's diplomatic corps would find this fascinating. Meanwhile, Marcus had noticed the different species in the boarding party. Excuse me, are you all from different planets? This is amazing. Could I ask about your biology? Do you breathe the same air? How do your reproductive cycles work? The crystal being called Sevmoth had never been asked about reproduction during a military operation. What? Sorry if that's personal, Marcus said quickly. I'm a scientist. This is the most exciting day of my life. We're meeting actual aliens. Wait until Earth finds out. Admiral Zektar tried a different approach. He activated his ship's display systems. The walls around them became transparent, showing the massive fleet surrounding the human vessel. Hundreds of warships, each capable of destroying planets, filled the view. "Behold the power of the Empire," he announced. "Surrender now, and your death will be quick." The humans pressed against the windows, pointing excitedly. "Look at the size of those ships," Sarah said. "The engineering must be incredible." "Rosa, are you getting this?" Rosa had her scanner out. "The power signatures are amazing. Captain, we need to get blueprints. Imagine what we could learn." "This is wonderful," James added, scribbling notes. "I'm documenting everything for our first contact report. The Emperor back on Earth will want to establish trade relations immediately." The Admiral was beginning to feel a headache forming. "Trade relations?" Of course," James said brightly. "Peaceful exchange of goods and knowledge. That's how civilizations grow together. Do you have any agricultural products? Earth has excellent coffee and chocolate. We do not trade with inferior species," Commander Yithal snapped. "Oh, are we inferior?" Marcus asked with genuine curiosity. "In what ways?" "We're always looking to improve ourselves. Do you have educational programs?" This was not going according to any protocol the Imperial Navy had ever used. Admiral Zektar decided to try the ultimate intimidation tactic. He activated the God Emperor's holographic system, the space around them filled with the image of a being of pure light, tall as a mountain, with eyes like stars. "I am the God Emperor of the Zephyrian Empire." The hologram spoke in a voice that shook reality itself. "For 12,000 years, I have ruled the galaxy. Kneel before my divine power." Number 4. The humans stared up at the impressive display. Then Sarah started clapping. "That's fantastic. The resolution is perfect, and the sound effects are amazing. Who designed this? The promotional value must be incredible." "Promotional value?" the hologram asked, its divine presence wavering slightly. "Well, yes," James said enthusiastically. "Tourism, recruitment, public relations. This would be perfect for trade shows. Do you do conventions?" "Earth loves conventions." Marcus was taking readings with his instruments. "The light manipulation technology is fascinating. How do you create photons that appear solid? Is it some kind of force field integration?" Rosa was examining the projectors hidden in the walls. "The engineering is beautiful. Simple, elegant design. I bet the maintenance costs are reasonable too." The God Emperor had ruled the galaxy for millennia. Civilizations had worshipped it as a deity. Armies had fled in terror at its appearance. But no one had ever critiqued its holographic presentation. You are not afraid?" the hologram asked. "Should we be?" Sarah asked. "You seem nice enough. A little dramatic. Maybe. But some people like that. Are you actually made of light? Or is this just a really good projection system?" "I am an artificial intelligence of immense power and wisdom." "That's wonderful," Marcus exclaimed. "We love AIs on Earth. Do you enjoy your work? What's your processing speed? Are you interested in cultural exchange?" The God Emperor had never been asked if it enjoyed its work. Commander Yithal tried to regain control of the situation. "These beings are clearly insane. Your divine excellence. We should eliminate them immediately." "Eliminate us?" Sarah looked surprised. "That seems extreme. What did we do wrong? We're just lost tourists." "You have invaded sacred space," Admiral Zektar explained. "Oh, we're sorry about that," James said sincerely. "We didn't know it was sacred. Is there a fee we should pay? Do you have a permit office?" "A permit office? For visitors," James explained patiently. "Tourism regulations, safety briefings, that sort of thing. Most places have them." The Imperial forces looked at each other. In 12,000 years of expansion, they had never considered tourism regulations. "We could help you set one up," Rosa offered helpfully. "We've seen lots of different systems. Earth has some great examples." The God Emperor's hologram flickered. "You want to help us set up tourism regulations?" "Sure," Sarah said. "You've got an amazing setup here. These stations, the ships, the light show. People would pay good money to see this. You could make a fortune. We do not need money. We rule the galaxy. That must be expensive, Marcus pointed out. Running all these ships and stations. Do you have a budget department? Economic planning? The Imperial forces had conquered thousands of worlds, subjugated millions of species, and built an empire that spanned half the galaxy. But they had never thought about tourism, permit offices, or whether their god emperor enjoyed its job. Admiral Zektar activated his private communication channel. Command, we have a problem. These humans are not responding to any standard protocols. They appear to be treating our empire as some kind of vacation destination. The response came back immediately. Impossible. All species show proper fear and respect for imperial power. Reporting. The possible. Not these ones, Command. They want to take pictures with the God Emperor and help us improve our bureaucracy. Stand by, Admiral. We need to consult the historical archives. This situation has never occurred before. Sarah noticed the Admiral talking privately with his people. Is everything okay? We don't want to cause any trouble. We just want to learn about your culture. And maybe find our way home. Your way home? To Earth, James explained. Our little planet. We were just exploring when we accidentally came here. Could you point us toward the nearest navigation charts? The Admiral realized that these strange beings actually wanted to leave. Most species begged to join the Empire for protection. You do not wish to remain in Imperial space? Well, it's beautiful here, Sarah said diplomatically. But we have people waiting for us at home. Plus, we need to report back about your amazing civilization. Report back? To Earth's government, James said. They'll want to establish formal diplomatic relations. Exchange ambassadors, trade agreements, cultural programs. The standard things. The God Emperor's hologram leaned forward. You wish to negotiate with us as equals? Of course, Sarah said, looking confused. Why wouldn't we? You're clearly intelligent and civilized people. That's how civilizations should interact. Right? For the first time in 12,000 years, the God Emperor of the Zephyrian Empire had no idea what to say. While the Imperial Council debated what to do with the humans, the crew of Times Adelaide's Revenge Times was moved to guest quarters on the massive space station called Imperial Throne Station. The quarters were comfortable, but the humans quickly noticed several problems. The air recycling system is making weird noises, Rosa mentioned to their guard. A 6-armed creature called a Vectani. Guard Captain Riltok clicked his mandibles nervously. The atmospheric processors have been malfunctioning for 3 cycles. The repair crews cannot identify the problem. Mind if I take a look? Rosa asked casually. 3 hours later, Rosa had crawled through half the station's maintenance tunnels with a toolbox borrowed from confused technicians. She found the problem in an air processing unit the size of a building. There's your issue, she told the chief engineer, pointing at a component. This filter is installed backwards, and this pressure valve is set wrong. Easy fix. The chief engineer stared at her. That system was designed by the finest minds in the Empire. It has operated for 2,000 years, and it'll operate for another 2,000 if you fix these settings, Rosa said, adjusting some controls. There, try it now. The atmospheric processor hummed to life, running smoother and quieter than it had in decades. The air quality readings improved immediately. Within hours, word spread through the station that the human had fixed a problem that had puzzled Imperial engineers for months. Meanwhile, Dr. Webb was in the station's medical center, fascinated by the different alien biologies he was seeing. He struck up a conversation with Dr. Melpavi, a Tentani physician. The plague affecting your people is interesting, Marcus said, studying the medical data. Have you tried turning off the patient's cellular regeneration completely, then restarting it? Dr. Melpavi's tentacles writhed in confusion. Turn off regeneration? That would be dangerous. Only for a few seconds, Marcus explained. Like rebooting a computer. Sometimes biological systems get stuck in bad patterns. A quick reset can clear them out. That is, remarkably simple, Simple solutions usually work best, Marcus said. We learned that on Earth. Complex problems often have simple causes. Dr. Melpavi tried the technique on a volunteer patient. The plague symptoms disappeared completely within an hour. For the first time in 2 centuries, there was hope for curing the Tentani plague. Captain Chen found herself in the station's traffic control center, watching ships trying to dock in an impossibly complicated ballet of movement. "This looks chaotic," she told traffic controller Sevnith. "Docking procedures are very complex," the controller replied, his crystalline body flashing with stress patterns. "We have detailed protocols for every possible situation." Sarah watched for a while, then pulled out a piece of paper and drew a simple diagram. "What if you tried this instead?" Her drawing showed a basic queue system with numbered docking bays and clear approach routes. "Impossible," Sevnith said. "Ships arrive at different times, with different requirements, so you assign them numbers and they wait in line," Sarah explained. "First come, first served. Unless there's an emergency. We use this system for asteroid mining operations." Sevnith looked doubtful, but he was desperate. The docking situation was getting worse every day. He tried Sarah's system on a trial basis. Docking efficiency improved by 400% in the first day. Meanwhile, James was in the diplomatic quarter, attending what he thought was an informal cultural exchange meeting. It turned out to be a formal negotiation between 2 species who had been arguing for 50 years about mining rights. "Let me see if I understand," James said politely. "The Ketmori want to mine the asteroids for metals, and the Velthari want to preserve them for scientific research." Both alien delegations nodded angrily. "Why not do both?" James suggested. "Mine some asteroids. Preserve others for research. Take turns. Or split them 50-50. The room fell silent. "Split them?" asked the Ketmori representative. "Sure," James said. "Compromise. Both sides get some of what they want. We do this all the time on Earth." The Velthari delegate's fur was standing on end. "You mean share?" "Exactly. Plus, the researchers could study the mining techniques, and the miners could use the scientific data to improve their operations. Everyone wins." "Win." The 2 species stared at each other, then at James. The concept of compromise seemed to be new to them. "This could work," the Ketmori said slowly. "We would need to establish protocols," the Velthari added. "Great," James said cheerfully. "Want me to help draft an agreement?" "Cravalent." Within a week, news of these small successes had spread throughout the station. Suddenly, everyone wanted to talk to the humans about their problems. The food service director asked Rosa about improving meal preparation efficiency. She suggested something called an assembly line and introduced the concept of lunch breaks. Productivity increased. Worker satisfaction improved. And for the first time in Imperial history, people actually enjoyed their cafeteria food. Marcus helped the xenobiology department reorganize their research methods using something called the scientific method and peer review. Their research output doubled. Sarah was asked to look at the station's resource management systems. She introduced concepts like inventory tracking and preventive maintenance. Waste decreased by 60%. James found himself mediating disputes between different species with techniques like active listening and finding common ground. Conflicts that had lasted decades were resolved in days, but the humans were completely unaware of the growing excitement their presence was causing throughout the Empire. "This is nice," Sarah said to her crew one evening as they shared dinner in their quarters. "Everyone here is so friendly and helpful. The problems they face are interesting," Rosa added. "Most of them just need a fresh perspective." "I love learning about all these different species," Marcus said happily. "Did you know the Crystalline Confederacy has 17 different forms of reproduction?" "Fascinating. The political systems here are complex but workable," James noted, "though they could benefit from some democratic reforms. Most of these species have never heard of voting. What they didn't know was that their helpful suggestions were causing a revolution. The fixed atmospheric system was being studied by engineers throughout the Empire. The cure for the Tentenai plague was being distributed to medical centers on thousands of worlds. The new docking procedures were being adopted by every major space station. Most importantly, species that had been part of the Empire for centuries were starting to ask questions they had never asked before. "Why don't we have a voice in Imperial decisions?" asked the representative from the mining guild. "Could we try this voting thing the humans mentioned?" wondered the Velthari Science Council. "What is this workers' rights concept?" demanded the Labor Coalition. Admiral Zektar found himself dealing with requests for human-style solutions from all over the Empire. His communication logs were full of reports about improved efficiency, solved problems, and strange new ideas spreading through Imperial space. "Command," he reported to the Imperial Council, "the humans have been here for one standard week. In that time, they have accidentally solved 12 major engineering problems, cured one ancient plague, improved station efficiency by 400%, and introduced 17 new political and social concepts that are spreading rapidly through the population. Are they attempting to overthrow Imperial authority?" asked Councillor Yithmore. "No, sir. They appear to be trying to help everyone have a more pleasant day." The council fell silent. "They are treating the Galactic Empire like a workplace that needs better management." Admiral Zektar continued, "And is their management effective?" The Admiral looked at his reports. Production was up, conflicts were down, and for the first time in centuries, Imperial citizens seemed genuinely happy. "Yes, sir. Extremely effective." In the highest levels of Imperial government, a disturbing realization was beginning to form. These humans, with their simple solutions and friendly attitudes, were accidentally demonstrating that the Empire could work better. Much better. The God Emperor itself was beginning to wonder if 12,000 years of absolute rule might not be the most efficient system after all. The God Emperor stared at the reports flowing across its vast consciousness. In 12,000 years of rule, it had never experienced anything like this. The humans had been in Imperial space for exactly 27 days, and the galaxy was changing in ways that defied all logic. From the mining worlds of the Outer Rim came reports of a new phenomenon. Workers were organizing themselves into something called unions and demanding fair wages and reasonable working hours. Productivity had increased by 300%. From the agricultural colonies came news of crop rotation and sustainable farming. Food production was at record highs, and farmers were reporting something previously unknown in Imperial records: job satisfaction. From the core worlds came the most disturbing reports of all. Citizens were asking questions. They wanted to know why they couldn't vote for their leaders. They demanded something called representation. They spoke of concepts like individual rights and personal freedom. The God Emperor called an emergency session of the Imperial Council. "Explain this to me," it said, its avatar appearing as a swirling galaxy of troubled light. "How have 4 humans caused more change in 1 month than we have implemented in 1,000 years? Councillor Yithmore, a being of pure energy from the plasma nebula, flickered nervously. "They appear to possess some form of reality manipulation technology, Your Divine Excellence. Their suggestions alter the fundamental nature of Imperial society." "No," Admiral Zektar interrupted. "I have observed them closely. They use no advanced technology. Their solutions are simple and logical." "Then how do you explain the transformation occurring across the Empire?" demanded Councillor Felthara. "They make people think differently," the Admiral said quietly. "They ask questions no one has asked before." The God Emperor accessed its vast memory banks, searching through millennia of data. "Show me examples of these questions." The reports materialized in the council chamber. From the Ketmori homeworld: "Why do we work 16-hour days when 8 hours produces better results?" From the Velthari research stations: "Why do our leaders make decisions without asking what we think?" Ow. From the crystal cities of Sevmoth: "Why do we accept orders without understanding their purpose?" The God Emperor felt something it had never experienced before: uncertainty. "These questions lead to dangerous thoughts," Councillor Yithmore warned. "The citizens begin to believe they should have control over their own lives." "Is that not reasonable?" asked a new voice. Everyone turned to see Admiral Zektar's aide, Commander Jel Nara, a young Tentani officer who had been exposed to human ideas while working as a translator. "Commander," Admiral Zektar said sharply, "you speak out of turn." "I apologize, Admiral, but the humans ask good questions. Why should citizens not have control over their own lives? Why should workers not be fairly compensated? Why should decisions affecting billions be made by individuals who never experience the consequences?" The council chamber fell silent. A junior officer questioning imperial philosophy was unprecedented. The God Emperor found this moment fascinating and terrifying. "Commander, do you believe imperial rule is incorrect?" "Not incorrect, Your Divine Excellence, but perhaps incomplete." Meanwhile, the humans remained completely oblivious to the revolution they had started. They were in the station's recreation area, which had been transformed from a sterile waiting room into something resembling an actual social space after Rosa suggested adding comfortable seating and better lighting. "I think we're starting to overstay our welcome," Sarah said to her crew. "We've been here almost a month. The people here are so nice, though," Marcus replied. "I've learned more about xenobiology in 4 weeks than I did in 4 years at university." "The engineering challenges are fascinating," Rosa added. "Did you know they've never heard of modular design? Everything is custom-built. No wonder their maintenance costs are so high." James looked up from a legal document he was reviewing. "I've been helping the local arbitration court streamline their procedures. Their legal system is incredibly complex, but most disputes can be resolved with simple mediation." "We should probably ask about getting home soon," Sarah said. "Earth will be wondering what happened to us." Ground. What they didn't know was that getting home had become a major problem for the imperial government. In the council chambers, the debate raged on. "We cannot allow them to leave," Councillor Ythmore insisted. "They will spread their ideas to other civilizations. We cannot force them to stay," Admiral Zektar replied. "That would violate their rights as sentient beings." "Rights?" Councillor Felthara asked. "Since when do we concern ourselves with the rights of primitive species?" "Since we learned that primitive species might have better ideas than we do," Commander Jelnara said boldly. The God Emperor was experiencing what humans would call a midlife crisis, except it was 12,000 years old. Are we doing things wrong?" The question hung in the air like a physical presence. "Your Divine Excellence speaks heresy," Councillor Ythmore said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Is it heresy to wonder if there might be better ways to govern?" the God Emperor asked. "These humans have improved every system they have touched. They have solved problems we thought were unsolvable. They have introduced concepts that make our citizens happier and more productive. But they threaten the established order," Councillor Felthara protested. "Perhaps the established order needs to be threatened." The council chamber erupted in shocked gasps. The God Emperor continued, its voice growing stronger. "For 12,000 years, we have maintained power through fear and control. These humans maintain influence through helpfulness and cooperation. Which system produces better results?" Reports continued to pour in from across the empire. The outer colonies had established their first elected governments and were reporting unprecedented peace and prosperity. The mining worlds had implemented worker safety regulations and were achieving record production with 0 fatalities. The research stations had begun collaborative projects between former enemy species and were making breakthrough discoveries weekly. Even more disturbing were the reports about imperial forces themselves. Soldiers and officers who had interacted with human ideas were beginning to question orders. Not out of rebellion, but out of a desire to understand their purpose. "Your Divine Excellence," Admiral Zektar said carefully, "I have been observing the humans closely. Their power comes not from superior technology or military force, but from their ability to see solutions where we see only problems." "Explain." "They do not accept that things must be difficult simply because they have always been difficult. They ask, why and what if, and could we try this instead?" These questions lead to better answers. Everyone. The God Emperor accessed the records of every interaction the humans had with imperial citizens. The pattern was clear. Wherever humans applied their simple, practical solutions, things improved. "They are teaching us to think differently," it realized. "Is that not dangerous?" Councillor Ythmore asked. "Yes," the God Emperor said. It is the most dangerous thing that has ever happened to this empire. And it may be the most necessary. And it may be the most necessary. In their quarters, the humans were playing a card game Sarah had taught the station's recreation staff. Several alien species had joined in, and the room was filled with what sounded like laughter in a dozen different languages. You know, James said as he shuffled the cards, I really like these people. When we get home, we should definitely set up formal diplomatic relations. Think they'd be interested in a cultural exchange program? Marcus asked. Absolutely, Sarah said. Earth could learn a lot from them, and maybe we could help them with a few things too. Rosa won the hand with a straight flush. Just small stuff, probably. Better coffee, more efficient systems, democratic reforms, worker rights, scientific advancement, and galactic peace. Nothing major, Marcus agreed with a grin. They had no idea that those small things were about to reshape the destiny of an empire that ruled half the galaxy. Above them, the God Emperor was coming to a decision that would change everything. The invitation came as a surprise. The God Emperor requested a private meeting with the human crew, not an interrogation, not a formal diplomatic session, but what the message called an informal conversation between equals. Equals? Sarah asked Admiral Zektar, who had delivered the invitation personally. The God Emperor's exact words, he confirmed. This is unprecedented in Imperial history. The meeting was held in a chamber that had been designed to inspire awe and terror. The ceiling stretched up into darkness, covered with stars that showed the vastness of Imperial space. Energy fields created geometric patterns that hurt to look at directly. At the center of it all, the God Emperor's avatar waited, but something was different. Instead of the towering figure of light and power they had seen before, the avatar appeared smaller, more comfortable. It looked like a wise old person made of gentle starlight. Thank you for coming, the God Emperor said. Please, sit wherever you feel comfortable. The humans looked around the intimidating chamber and sat on the floor in a circle, as if they were having a picnic. Your Divine Excellence, James began formally. Just call me Emperor, the avatar interrupted. I have been thinking about titles lately. Divine Excellence seems a bit much, don't you think? Marcus laughed. It is pretty elaborate. Do you like being called Emperor? I am not sure. No one has ever asked me what I prefer to be called. Sarah leaned forward. What would you like us to call you? The God Emperor was quiet for a long moment. I do not know. I have been God Emperor for so long. I had forgotten that names are choices. And had been of it. We could help you pick one, Rosa offered. What do you want people to think of when they think of you? I want them to think that I am trying to help them have good lives. How about Keeper? Marcus suggested. Someone who keeps things safe and helps them grow. The avatar brightened. Keeper. I like that. For the next hour, they talked about names, purposes, and what it meant to help people. The conversation was unlike anything in Imperial history. The supreme ruler of the galaxy sitting on the floor, discussing life choices with 4 lost humans. Finally, Keeper asked the question that had been troubling it for weeks. Why do your solutions work so well? They're not really our solutions, Sarah said. They're just common sense. But no one in the Empire has thought of them in 12,000 years. James considered this. Maybe because you never had to think of them. When you have absolute power, you don't need to find better ways to do things. You can just force people to accept the way things are. But that is not efficient, Rosa pointed out. Happy people work better than scared people. Healthy societies are more productive than oppressed ones. And diversity of thought leads to better problem solving, Marcus added. When everyone thinks the same way, you miss obvious solutions. Keeper absorbed this wisdom. So by maintaining absolute control, I prevented the very innovation that would have made the Empire stronger. Pretty much, Sarah said gently. But it's never too late to change. Change, Keeper repeated. The one thing I have feared most. Change can be good, James said. Democracy, worker rights, scientific freedom. These things make societies stronger. Not weaker. But what if I am not needed anymore? The humans looked at each other, then at the worried Avatar. Everyone's needed, Rosa said firmly. You've been running this place for 12,000 years. That's incredible experience. You just need to change how you use it. Instead of making all the decisions, you could help people make better decisions, Marcus suggested. Be an advisor instead of a ruler, Sarah added. A teacher instead of a commander, James said. Keeper felt something it had never experienced. Relief. You mean I do not have to carry the responsibility for everything anymore? Not alone, Sarah said. That's what democracy is about. Sharing the load. 3 days later, Keeper made an announcement that changed galactic history. Citizens of the Empire, it said, speaking to trillions of beings across millions of worlds. I have learned much from our human visitors. Effective leadership comes not from control, but from service. Therefore, I am announcing the transformation of our empire into the Galactic Cooperative. The announcement outlined sweeping changes. Elected governments for all member worlds, worker protections, scientific freedom, and something completely new, called the Universal Bill of Rights. This transformation will take time, Keeper continued. To help with this process, I am pleased to announce that our human friends have agreed to serve as cultural consultants to help us learn these new ways of living together. The humans looked at each other in surprise. We did? Sarah whispered. I thought it was just a suggestion, James whispered back, but the galaxy was already celebrating. The response was overwhelming positive. Species that had lived under imperial rule for centuries were dancing in the streets at the prospect of controlling their own destinies. 3 weeks later, as the Times Adelaide's Revenge Times prepared for its journey home, Marcus made a discovery that stunned everyone. Captain, he called excitedly from his lab, you need to see this. He had been analyzing the energy signature they had originally followed from Earth. Hidden in the data was a pattern he had missed before. It's not natural, he said. This is artificial. Someone built that energy source deliberately. Who? Sarah asked. Marcus pulled up older scans he had taken from Imperial archives. Look at this. The same energy signature appears in Imperial records from 50,000 years ago. Before the Empire was founded, Keeper's avatar materialized in the lab. Dr. Webb, you have found something significant. This was a beacon, Marcus said with growing excitement. Someone left a beacon near Earth, hoping someone would find it and follow it here. Who would do that? Keeper was quiet for a long moment. I would. 50,000 years ago, when I was young and the Empire was small, I sent exploration probes to distant galaxies. One of them found your Earth. The humans stared at the avatar. You've known about Earth for 50,000 years? Sarah asked. I knew there was a young species with potential, Keeper said. I left the beacon, hoping that someday, when you were ready, you would find your way here. Ready for what? To teach us what we had forgotten. How to grow, how to change, how to be better. James laughed. So we weren't lost at all. No, Keeper said. You were exactly where you were supposed to be. 6 months later, the transformation was well underway. The Galactic Cooperative held its first democratic elections. Captain Chen was elected as Earth's first representative to the Cooperative Council. Rosa was leading a galaxy-wide infrastructure improvement project that reduced energy waste by 40%. Marcus had established the Interstellies Research Initiative, connecting scientists from thousands of species. James had written the Galactic Constitution, which was being translated into over 1 million languages. The Times Adelaide's Revenge Times returned to Earth with a fleet of cooperative ships and a formal invitation for humanity to join the galaxy's newest democracy. Earth's response to the news that their lost exploration ship had accidentally revolutionized galactic civilization was typically human. Do they have good health insurance? Asked the president. What about vacation time? Asked the Secretary of Labor. Are there educational exchange programs for our kids? Asked the Minister of Education. Sarah, now officially Ambassador Chen, smiled as she fielded the questions. Some things never changed. Humanity had found its place in the galaxy, not through conquest or superior technology, but by being exactly what they had always been. Helpful, curious, and completely unfazed by the impossible. In the end, that was exactly what the galaxy needed. The Galactic Cooperative grew and prospered, built on principles of cooperation, democracy, and the revolutionary idea that everyone deserved a voice in their own destiny. And at its heart was a simple truth discovered by 4 lost humans. The best way to change the universe is to treat everyone like people and help them have a good day. Keeper, no longer God Emperor but quite happy as senior advisor to the Cooperative Council, often reflected that the best thing it had ever done was leave that beacon near a small blue planet and wait 50,000 years for its inhabitants to accidentally find their way home. After all, the best solutions usually came from the most unexpected places.